In previous videos, we saw how we created a new API, added a path and operations into it. Now let's head over to the component section here to create all the necessary details required to create an operation and a path. Right away, we get a data dictionary, a list of examples, list of headers, parameters, security schemas and servers. These are all the components required at various stages in API design to be reused. Data dictionary is a repository of all the schemas called as data models in a centralized way. Here I can see that there are 44 data dictionaries which are like a folder containing all the schemas. For example, online banking REST API v2 is a list of all the schemas related to the online banking section. So I can see that it has transaction structure, consumer loan response, loan request of new user and everything else. All these structures are reusable so that there's a consistency in the request and response of all your APIs. As we can see, for each of this data dictionary, there are various versions that you can maintain. Each version can have new data models added or old one deprecated, as we can see here. At the top, we get an overview of this data model where at any point I can see how many of the data models inside this data dictionary are in active state, deprecated or in draft mode. Similar to API designs, API data models also get reviewed under linting, which is the style guide of the organization for API design and all the schemas. So data dictionary will have a linting rule associated with it, which is called data dictionary rule set. The structure of the data model, the writing conventions, whatever you have mentioned in that rule set called DD rule set will be applied and checked here, and all the results will be displayed in terms of errors, warnings and info. You can go here by clicking on edit. This is a detailed view of data dictionary. Here I can edit the basic details like name, summary and description, search various data models within it. The indicator before all these names is the status of that respective data model. As I can see, this one is deprecated, this one is in draft. So let's open the one which is in draft. Here I can see that this is a data model for project. It has a text field which is created by, string field which is like created date, a boolean, a model called as org. If I click on that, I get the property name of that model. In order to add a new data field inside this data model, I can click on this plus button. As soon as I click on the plus button, this form shows up which lets you create any kind of property within a data model. Here I can put the name of the property, the type of the property. It supports all kinds of property like boolean, integration, string, number, array, object or double. You can dive deeper into OS documentation to select which kind of property is relevant for your use case. You can also refer an existing model. If you enable it, you can select other API and a data model used in that API to create a new one. But here we are creating from scratch. So I can go to the general section. Here I can put a default value. If there's any pattern and if I want to add any existing enum to that pattern. In example, you can add an example for this specific data field, external documentation link and URL. All these fields are part of official Open API schema. XML you can put, either you can enable that attribute name and add that name and prefix. Last one is setting, where you can select write only, read only, nullable and deprecated. You can learn more about it from the official Open API specification schema to select any one of these. Inheritance is another property which you can select either one of, all of, any of. Inheritance is basically connecting to another type of data model. You can click on this plus and select an API. Once you select an API, all the data models used in that API will be visible. Now I can go ahead and select a specific data model from that API and click on save. Now I have added an inheritance to this data model field from update product request data model. You can put one of, all of, or any of, and multiple of these lists. The best part about API with Design Studio is that its Design Studio follows Open API specification schema. So you can dive deeper into the inheritance property in OS, and this lets you have a governed and a structured way to add your Open API specification inheritance, and all other attributes that are part of the Open API specification. Lastly, you can go to the source control and commit or save your Open API schema. You can also export whatever data model that you have created, in this case, a project data model, in the form of a JSON or a YAML. And if you want it to be standalone, you can select Dereferenced, which is basically a standalone version of this, or you can have a bundled one. If you have selected any inheritance or referred any other models in this one specific data model, you have to select the bundled one, and it will export your data model as a JSON or a YAML. Now, since API Viz also has a governance layer on your Design Studio, it has multiple revisions that you can maintain, and only the approved one will be moved to be usable to create an Open API design. Once I have mentioned all my required data models based on my use case, I can move all of them as published. And now if I go to Open API specification design and I'm editing any specific schema, like for example, car insurance quote, and I can go to edit, I can go to responses and click on the 400 or click on this gear icon inside this 200 OK response. I can simply go to the content type and select my schema from this drop down. All the drop downs will have the list of all your data models approved. So you don't have to create every time from scratch. You can use your schemas from here and also attach few examples. Now let's head back to the component section. There are other components in this list. We will dive deeper into them in the upcoming video.